Okay, hello everyone. Good afternoon. We are very pleased to welcome Millicent Mutuli, the Director of the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees Regional Bureau for the West and Central Africa. She's here to brief you about refugees fleeing Burkina Faso for safety in neighboring coastal countries. Ms. Mutuli, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity to brief the press on the situation. I am in New York since yesterday and taking the opportunity to raise awareness on the situation in the Central Sahel, but also with quite a special focus on what is happening in the coastal countries. I am with UNHCR, as just introduced. We do have a growing concern for the number of people fleeing to coastal countries to escape crisis in Burkina Faso. And these numbers have risen quite significantly in the last several weeks. We have seen a marked increase in the number of people arriving in Côte d'Ivoire, in Ghana, in Benin, and also in Togo. Those are the four countries bordering Burkina Faso's southern border, and they are fleeing due to security incidents in their villages close to these borders. These four countries have now recorded in total some 23,000 arrivals from Burkina Faso, and UNHCR is right now supporting governments to register the new arrivals and to confirm the numbers. In some instances, some of these numbers are likely to go up. For example, in Togo, there's quite a few locations the government indicates that they have not been able to access. So it is very likely that some of these numbers are going to go up. In some of the countries, even as registration is going on, there are continuing new arrivals. For example, we have seen this in Ghana. There are also reports that because of security incidents in these countries themselves, for example, in Togo, there are people who are the Togolese who are also displaced within their localities. So it's quite a mixed bag, if you wish, and we are continuing to corroborate these reports together with the local authorities. I have to say that the influx that we're seeing into the coastal countries is in addition to some 70,000 refugees from Burkina Faso who have sought asylum in neighboring Niger and also in Mali, with the majority of those numbers having gone into Mali itself. So when you look at the total numbers, overall, we now have over 90,000 refugees and asylum seekers in 6 countries neighboring Burkina Faso. And this really is in the last several months. It is definitely in addition to an estimated 1.9 million people who are displaced inside Burkina Faso. And some of those crossing the border today into the countries, what we're calling the coastal countries, are people who have been displaced inside Burkina Faso and are now leaving to go into the neighboring countries. Some of those arriving in the countries have told UNHCR staff that they were given a 2-day ultimatum to leave their homes by unidentified people who arrived on motorbikes, rode into their villages, and communicated their demands by simply holding up 2 fingers before riding away. And the new refugees said they understood this to mean they had 2 days to leave. No one really waits to find out the consequence of not complying, they said. In Togo, women who fled Burkina Faso told us about the killing of their husbands, which prompted them to leave their homes together with their children to avoid the same fate. Some youth have also said to UNHCR that they have fled to avoid forced recruitment. In Ghana, for example, we are being told previously we were seeing families, a few members of families arriving. We're now seeing whole families coming through and saying they can no longer survive in their villages and they're coming to wait until peace returns. When we look at Côte d'Ivoire, a delegation has left the capital, Abidjan. Government officials, together with the UN, have left the capital in Abidjan to go to these areas in the north to assess the most pressing needs and also to look at the most appropriate settlement options for the almost 11,000 people that have now arrived in Côte d'Ivoire. In Ghana last week already, the government also dispatched a high-level mission. We joined that high-level mission to the north of Ghana, and here there are some 6,000 people, and the government is this week looking also into what it is, what would be the most appropriate means of caring for these people that continue to arrive. Many of the people arriving are staying with host families, because there's quite a bit of affiliation, ethnic affiliation, families on both sides of the border. So many of them are for the moment staying with families. Some of them are going into community structures. Some are going into religious, into churches, religious buildings. And so there's quite a bit of a mixed situation out there. There's makeshift settlements close to the border. Host communities are feeling overstretched because they have shared the little resources that they have, from the food to the water. Education, schools are really stretched. You are seeing that classrooms are filling up with children that are coming from across the border. And unless we quickly address these issues, they will lead to new tensions in some of these communities. Many of those who are coming this time are saying that they have no plan to return, and they're saying the situation in their villages have become quite untenable. When we look at Togo and Benin, there also we have begun registration of those who are coming in and seeing in what way. Here we have, in Togo, for example, we have about 5,000 that are there. We remain worried that the number of people fleeing to the coastal countries will very likely rise due to the very difficult humanitarian situation inside Burkina Faso itself. In many locations in Burkina Faso today, it is very difficult for aid agencies to reach communities. It is difficult for communities themselves to also access aid. And with this sort of situation, we fear that we're going to see more numbers of people coming across the borders to seek asylum. We're working with the governments and our partners to assist the refugees and the communities, and we're also then preparing, increasing our level of preparedness in the event that there are bigger numbers than we see now. For UNHCR, we are looking at immediately establishing a presence in the north of Ghana, but we're also looking at setting up a presence in the north of Côte d'Ivoire. These are areas where we have not had operations, we have not had activities, and so we have to quickly, together with the government, look at what it takes to be able to set up our presence. And we will also work with the government of Togo, and if it is necessary, we stand ready to be able to set up a presence out there. Overall, we are calling for support to governments in the coastal countries. They will need support, not just them, but also UNHCR and partners, so that we are ready to respond as necessary. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you.
I'm available for questions if there are any.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mutuli. Please go ahead.
Thank you for your briefing. Celia Davaren from Africa Confidential. You gave us a lot of numbers. Concretely, what is your action? How many are you to take care of those refugees or people fleeing their country? And when you say you're working with government, which ones?
Thank you very much. Yes, indeed, there's quite a lot of numbers. 23,000. If you look at Côte d'Ivoire, we have 11,000 new arrivals. When we look at Ghana, it's about 6,000. Togo, 5,000. So there's a breakdown which we can give you. What exactly are we doing? We have, in many of these, our approach right now is to support community structures. So we have to do this through the government, through the local authorities. So where we work with governments to enhance the health facilities. These are communities that themselves are overstretched. We work with the local authorities to see how it is we're going to support the schools where refugees, asylum seekers have arrived. We find that in many areas, the water facilities are not enough, but we have to work through government so that government indicates where exactly they would like us to add the support, the government and the communities themselves. So that is the work that we are trying to do, but we do it on the guidance and with the support to the government that is taking the forefront. I don't know if that answers the question.
Not really, because, I mean, when you say you're working with the government, I mean, what do they do? What does the government do for the people? Do you give them, I don't know, something for them to have a better life? Or what do you do?
When I look at the water sector, for example, it will mean either we are sinking additional boreholes. It means that where there is water, we are bringing in or extending water services to where there is bigger groups of people. It actually means that when we look at a school, we are going to construct more schools, more classrooms. We are going to support a school to bring in more teachers. Where we look at the health facilities, we are actually going to support either providing medical supplies. We are going to have to bring in more personnel. So it either means that we are supporting a local authority and saying, here is support so that you can hire more nurses, more doctors. Here is support so you can hire more teachers. So it's as concretely as that. But also that we have to provide individual assistance. So the people who are arriving who do not have anything, we are actually providing, together with the World Food Programme, we're providing food to support families, without forgetting the host communities, people who've taken people in, to make sure that even those who are hosting are receiving something. Thank you.
Thank you. Your question, please.
Thank you so much. Efrem Kousaifi from Arab News Daily. I have two questions for you. You mentioned that the host communities in neighboring countries are being overstretched and they're trying to deal with very limited resources. And you said, unless we address this, this will lead to more tensions. How do you plan to address this crisis, and what exactly is your appeal to the international community on this particular element of the problem? And second, just wondering, why is there no presence yet in the neighboring countries? This crisis has been going on for a while, refugee crisis, and why is there no presence, and what will it take to set up operations, let's say in north of Ghana and north of Côte d'Ivoire? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think what we're calling for very concretely will be funding support. A lot of the funding support has been focused on the Central Sahel countries, Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger. But when we look at countries such as Côte d'Ivoire, such as Ghana, Togo, Benin, we have not had humanitarian operations going on there. And so we do need to quickly get ready to provide a humanitarian support. So what we are concretely appealing for is a funding support that would enable us to be able to be present together with partners, but also to be able to support the government in the way that the government needs to be able to manage such a humanitarian crisis that is unfolding in some of these countries. What does it take for us as UNHCR to set this up? First, fundamentally, it is the funding. But even as we get the funding, yes, we are going out there. We've got to set up offices. We've got to deploy personnel. We've got to bring in the supplies that are necessary. That if we are going to do distributions, for example, we either have to have what we're distributing, whether it is food stuff, whether it is what we call relief items, whether it's the tents, the blankets, we've got to be able to move these in. we've got to transport these in. Luckily, we are in coastal countries, and so we can bring these in and ship them to these areas. But we do need the ability to do this. So that's what we're looking at. Is there capacity for us to use cash transfers? We've got to be able to find that out to see, is there a mechanism to be able to do these things? But we will, of course, look to advance the kind of funding that is needed, but we do need this to be backed up very quickly so we're able to operate.
And do you have a number? How much money do you need for
this-
an initial? Yeah.
At this point, we do not have the initial figures of what it is we're looking at. As soon as we can establish the numbers of people that are already there, we will come out and speak with our donor partners on how much this will entail. Thank you very much.
Any further questions? Edie, please.
Thank you very much, and belatedly on behalf of the UN Correspondents Association, thanks for doing this briefing. How concerned are you that the soaring humanitarian needs all over the world this year are going to have a severe impact on funding in Burkina Faso, this whole area of Africa and the Sahel?
Thank you very much. We remain concerned that there are immense needs across the world. But this is why we also then do flag some of these other areas that continue to have a need. We appreciate that there will be needs, particularly in a context where we're seeing Turkey, Syria, and so do acknowledge that there are huge needs that have emerged, but also do want to bring attention to other areas where, if not addressed, we will have serious difficulties. So yes, there is concern that globally the donor community may be stretched, but we're just saying that we should not forget some of these other crises in other parts of the world.
Thank you. Please. Stefano.
Yes, it's a kind of a follow-up. Stefano Vaccara, La Voce di New York. There are governments in Europe, ones, for example, Italy, that say that in pushing back migrants or refugees, depends on point of view, going through Libya, they say we will help at the origin. We will, they've been saying till today, actually, the foreign minister is coming also here. So is not this a situation where you should stick to the word? I mean, Burkina Faso is in trouble. You need help to to intervene. You need funds. You need those countries, European countries, that pushing back those refugees shouldn't be already being there and give you the money to do the money, also the technical help to right away be able to help these people.
First, we do encourage that people are given the right to seek asylum. And so we really are not in agreement that people should be pushed back. And I think that we're very appreciative of particularly the coastal countries that I've spoken about, that we see that there is access to asylum. They are allowing refugees leaving Burkina Faso to enter these countries. So on the question of asylum and pushback, it is always our appeal as UNHCR that people should be granted the right to seek asylum. We will be talking to all donors in terms of the needs that are emerging, particularly for the coastal countries, but also, as you say, that there is need to address the issues with regard to giving options to people where they are, but we have to give them real options where they are. So yes, those are discussions that we continue to have.
Do we have any other further questions? No, Ms. Mutuli, thank you very much for your time, for your briefing.